Hey, I'm Shovel, and way too many months ago, I bought this F-150 project truck for $500. And the premise of that, to bring you up to speed, was it needed a new engine, but other than that, it's pretty solid. There's really not any appreciable rust on it. It's ready to rock and roll. I got some early progress done on that, and then life started treating me like a punching bag, literally in some cases. It's been a pretty rough few months, and so I haven't got as much work done as I'd really wanted to, but we're going to keep on plugging away. I had recorded a bunch of little bits and pieces along the way as I got stuff, like the new engine's in there already, and I'd recorded all that stuff, but time has passed, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started on the next part that I have to get done on this to bring you up to speed. New engine's in there. Remanufactured engine is in place. Just to get myself a clean start, I started with new injectors and all new sensors everywhere. I got the timing set correctly on the cam phase sensor and also pre-pressurized the oil system, so the oil system is primed. New water pump. You can see it's the old alternator, and it's the old power steering pump, and it's the old air conditioning compressor. The AC compressor brings us to the next job I have to do on this, and it has to do with rust. See, this truck is overall like 99% rust-free, but there is one place where there's significant rust. Right here on the radiator support. I'm not sure why I needed to point that. You could see it, and then over here on the other side. I know it's possible to buy a brand new whole radiator support, but I was not able to find a way of getting one to my house, whether picking it up or ordering it for less than $200, and I don't want to nickel and dime myself into spending $100 grand on a $500 truck. That just doesn't make any sense. These things can be welded up, and I have a welder. Since this isn't cosmetic, this all gets covered up, and even though it doesn't look like it, the area behind this is actually still stout. It's really just the part you can see here and the part you can see here. So I'll be able to cut that out and just replace it with new parts. So the next thing I get to do is see if there's any pressure in the AC system, and if it's already leaked out, then I'm in the clear. I can take out the condenser and have more room to work there. As for the metal to replace that, I don't have any sheet metal lying around, except I kind of do. That is a mangled bumper. Oh, yep. No pressure. So since that's at 0, that little needle there would go negative if there was vacuum. So that's at 0, which means there's no pressure in it, which means I can take this thing all apart. So I guess that's good. It's one of the few times when it's good to not have any pressure in there, I guess. With the AC condenser removed, you can see that it's really not that bad around the back here. See, there's still a lot of structure there. All right, I'll be the first to tell you that I am not an expert at the trade of fabrication and welding and all that stuff like that. So don't follow me for advice on how to do that, at least not yet. The one thing I think I am qualified to give a bit of advice on, though, is the first step towards getting good at something is to be willing to be not very good at it. And so I'm not very good at it. I did grow up on a farm and made sparks on stuff a lot, but then I would just end up fixing it again and again because I really didn't know what I was doing. And so more recently, of course, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube University, learning what really is supposed to be happening on the metal there. And then also I got my buddy Toasty, who showed me the ropes on the specific welder I have here. And so I'm just going to take something that is pretty inconsequential, like if my weld fails, no one gets hurt, and we're going to just make this not be a ball of rust. That's basically it. I want to be cautious not to give anyone advice that might get them hurt. I'm just going to tell you what I personally do. Generally, using power tools, I don't wear gloves because I don't want them to get caught and possibly drag me into them and cause trouble. However, I'm going to be handling pieces of metal next to a spinning sanding disc and sanding belt, and I don't want the metal to get caught and cut my hand. So that's the logic I'm using on this. I'm going to go ahead and try to just get the edge of those things, not have a burr on them, and to get some of the paint off the edge of them, and then we'll be ready to make some sparks. All right, before we get too far ahead of ourselves on this, I just want to remind you I am not a skilled or experienced fabricator. So the purpose of this is not instructional, but rather to encourage you to, do things. Just give stuff a try. Second thing is that although I'm not an experienced fabricator or welder, my friend Toasty is, and he showed me how to use this welder, and I rely on him for a lot of that stuff because he does it for a living, and he really knows what he's doing. And a story he told me that haunts me is one of his coworkers was welding, and a little dingle ball from the weld made its way into his ear, and that was the last thing he heard was sizzling noises. And so, in that ear. And I like listening to music, so what I do is go ahead and pop in some earplugs, and Toasty does as well. I'd advise you to do it. It's not about the sound, it's about still having the sound in case something decides to fly where it shouldn't. I'm gonna put my ego aside and show you my work. It's pretty bad. I'm a little ashamed of it, but I'm not ashamed of it because I hopped in and did it. Yeah, that's not very good. I'll admit that's garbage. If you saw someone else do that kind of work on your vehicle, you'd want to find a different shop. This is my vehicle. I get to learn on it, and this is a new skill for me. I still have to fill in this area here. I didn't cut that out correctly, so I have to kind of take care of this. So I'll do that, and I'll do that one over there off camera because you don't want to see this. And I'll show you how it turns out. There we go. It's as good as it's going to get. I'm not going to spend any time apologizing for being an amateur and doing an amateur job. A grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't, and that has no consequences when it comes to safety of occupants in the vehicle or anyone else on the road. It's better than the rust ball it was, etc. Time for some paint, and then I can get back to the stuff I'm actually good at. I got the AC condenser in, but I also got a new AC compressor in, a new dryer, and the next thing that I have to do is hook it up to a vacuum pump and evacuate it. I don't currently know where I stuck my R134A, so I have to go find that, which means I can't put it in yet, but I still want to get that wet air out of there so that the dryer doesn't get moistened by, the ambient air that is trapped inside that system there right now. Then the next thing I get to do is throw the radiator in and throw the belt on and some other goodies. I've got a mess to clean up. Well, that's just how it goes. When you're working, you make a mess, then you clean it up, then you make another mess. So I've got another part to stick on there, and that is this new radiator. I got a new 3-core radiator. I know that I don't need 3 cores for a 4.2, but the price was like $8 more than a 1-core radiator, and it's got cooling fans built onto it. So this guy here is going to go in there. And right now, I've got that vacuum pump turned off. I've got a vacuum drawn, and I'm just making sure that it holds a vacuum. And so far, it's been on there for about 20 minutes like that, and sitting at 0. So I'm pretty sure we got no leaks. That's good. That means that whenever I get around to finding my R134, pump that guy up and expect to have some nice cool air. Bad news, as it might be apparent from my increased layerage of clothing, it's officially the cold time of year. So that means I've been slacking and not getting enough of this stuff done. The good news is, it is maddeningly close, insanely maddeningly close to done. I'm gonna start this truck today before that sun falls out of the sky. When I was taking everything apart, I had the old radiator in here, and the transmission cooler lines were fused to it. I just could not get them off. I mangled them up, and I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and cut the rubber part of the transmission cooler lines down here. I'll buy brand new lines and a brand new radiator, put them all together, and we'll be in business. And that is where I messed up. Not gonna say that's my proudest work. It'll make it so I can start the engine. The next thing I've got to do is drop that transmission pan and change the fluid in there. And yes, I'm gonna change the transmission fluid before I even know if the engine runs. The point of that is that assuming the transmission is still in good condition, I'll probably want to make sure that there's clean fluid in there and a clean filter and everything, and not be like churning around whatever old stuff is in it. Because if I can maximize the life of it starting now with good practices, then, if I get another 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever number of miles out of it, that's great. This is one of those times when you don't want to take it for granted when you've got some help. For example, if you watch Big Time here on YouTube, that's like 8 dudes. They've got a camera operator, they've got editors, etc. If you watch Grind Hard Plumbing Company, that's 4 or 5 dudes. So there's the people who are on camera being the talent and doing the physical work, but then there's also the very physical work of being the camera operator. There's the work of doing the editing, and that's a lot of people work together to make something awesome. And so I have to wash my hands after I do stuff like that so that I can grab my phone and not have my phone be covered in grease. And then I've got to come around here and show you what's going on with that. So I just dropped down the transmission pan, and we're going to look together. I haven't even looked in it yet. We're going to look together at what the inside of the pan looks like. Okay, so here's the, well, that's of course just the gasket. That's getting replaced. Here's the pan. You can see the magnet has already got a pretty good beard on it. We're just going to go ahead and dump this out into there. The fluid itself doesn't look tremendously burned. Oh look, we got the lollipop. That means that this thing has never been dropped before. We have GAC. We've got, oh my goodness, look at this. We've got a lot. So this transmission's not long for this world. It might work correctly, but that is a lot of wear. So this transmission is unfortunately going to be an expense for me at some point. We'll see how long it lasts though. But yeah, this is, you know, I mean, there's no like chunks of metal. This is all just wear material, like friction material and, you know, whatever, just random debris from in there. So yeah, tired old transmission. Nothing surprising in here, but I expect the transmission's pretty far worn. If you're confused about why there's a lollipop inside the transmission, this is from the manufacturing process. This plugs the hole where the dipstick and everything is. And so when they have a brand new transmission, they assemble the truck, then someone else's job is to come along and poke that dipstick into it, and that just drops that down into the pan. That's it. It's just like harmless for it to live down there. And that also lets you know that that pan has probably never been dropped, or if it ever was dropped, they just dropped it, replaced the filter, and put it back up and left the lollipop in place. But yeah, it's just leftovers from manufacturing. It's completely meaningless. Pan's clean, magnets back in the pan. Got this thing nice and clean. We're gonna reuse that instead of the new one that came with this because this is better than that. And then this is just gonna go back up. We'll put the truck back on the ground, put some fluid in there, and then we're gonna start the engine. It's gonna be awesome. Time for fresh transmission sauce. Well, now's the scary part. I've got coolant, I've got motor oil, I've got transmission fluid, and a fresh transmission filter, and the plumbing sort of kind of done down there. I've primed the oiling system prior to a finishing assembly on that. I think that I timed it correctly on the camshaft position sensor. I've got the spark plug wires connected. I've got all the vacuum hoses connected. I'm pretty sure I got everything. So this is the first scary part. Plug in the battery and see if anything catches fire. The second part is I'm going to hold the gas pedal down all the way, which should put the engine or the ECU into flood clear mode, and allow me to crank the engine over and build oil pressure without firing the injectors. That part there, of course, is going to be important because I want to make sure that I start it up with oil pressure. The next part after that is I crank it over live and see if it starts. And that's the scary part, because if something big was done wrong, either by me or by the engine rebuilder, that's the part where we're going to hear a big, very depressing noise, and then you'll hear me utter at least one curse word under my breath. And so let's go ahead and get started on that stuff. Getting exciting now. I know it looks really dark outside. It's not even 4 o'clock. It's just this far north this time of year. That's how it goes. So get to find out if there's any glaring electrical faults at this point. Got the positive side of the battery connected. I'm gonna connect the negative side, see if any chaos ensues. I've got the fire extinguisher right over there. Next thing after that, turn the key and check if there's any fuel leaks just when it, you know, pressurizes the fuel system. And then after that, I'm gonna try and crank over the engine. That was just cranking it over with my foot all the way down on the gas to make it not inject any fuel. And now we're gonna see if it wants to start up with fuel. That power steering doesn't sound good. Let's fix that. Gotta admit though, that was pretty nice. It just fired right up. So, power steering. So it does sound like I might have a miss, but hopefully we can diagnose what's going on with that. Okay, well, that's not ideal. Not ideal at all. So I'm glad I looked underneath there. But yeah, we're gonna have to probably solve this problem.